NVIDIA and AMD both had a rough day on Friday, while some other semiconductor stocks jumped over double digits. On today's episode, I want to take a closer look. What are some of the bearish thoughts impacting NVIDIA's stock, which was down roughly 2%, and AMD was just down nearly 3%, while Broadcom technology was up over 25%. So let's get started. But before we go anywhere, make sure to hit the thumbs up, make sure to hit the subscribe button, check out the pinned comment for special offer at fool.com/Jose. And also check out my daily newsletter, What the Chip Happened, where I take a closer look at semiconductor news on a daily basis. So let's get started.
I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for the subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
All right, so first, just a quick price action. We can see AMD finished the day at $127. Year to date, the stock is down roughly 8.4%. Now, I might sound crazy, but I am very, very bullish on AMD in the long term of things. Now, obviously, you guys know NVIDIA is my number one position, and unfortunately, NVIDIA was also down about 2% on Friday, down sitting at $135. Year to date, the stock is doing really good, about 178% up. But unfortunately, in the past 6 months, the stock has barely moved. I believe we need not maybe a complete catalyst, but I think we have to see maybe a quarter or maybe two of how Blackwell is doing before we see another run up, as the stock has done a nice movement in the past year. So overall, I'm still very bullish on NVIDIA, have no intentions of selling, but I do believe the market right now is a little bit worried about the AI space in forms of the GPU market. Now, I think one of the main culprits, and we're going to look at some other, but I think one of the main culprits was Broadcom technology. So Broadcom reported earnings on Thursday, and we've actually did a video on this, I believe 2 days ago, where I talked about Broadcom earnings. But we can see Broadcom's earnings were so great that the stock was up roughly 24% on one day. Now, for those that are not familiar, Broadcom helps big tech players design their own AI chips. So with Broadcom doing so well, and they mentioning, hey, look, if we look at my daily newsletter that I released on Friday, Broadcom believes that they can have a servable addressable market of roughly $60 to $90 million by 2027, mainly driven by 3 top hyperscale players. And the second thing they mention is those hyperscale players that they're working with, those 3 big ones, are working on ASIC AI accelerator to build up 1 million plus clusters. So many people, I would say the market is thinking right now, hey, look, if these hyperscalers are building 1 million AI accelerated clusters, and they're building it with their own chip solution, with their own ASIC, then it means that they're going to reduce the dependency of NVIDIA. And in theory, it should create some form of bearish thesis for NVIDIA, right? Because all these big tech players are going to be spending roughly so many $1 billion on designing their own AI chip. Now, I've talked about this in the past. I think right now the AI market is evolving at such rapid levels that I believe that thinking is very unreasonable at the moment. Maybe in the future it might get to that, but I think where we stand right now, there's no one touching NVIDIA in forms of competition, in forms of their AI chips. So I would say if these hyperscalers are building 1 million cluster systems of their own ASIC chips or their own chips, then the amount of 1 million cluster they're going to be building with NVIDIA chips is also going to be immense. I mean, another ASIC player that designs custom GPUs for big tech players mentions that they believe the AI accelerator market is going to be huge, over $200 billion. We're getting a lot of numbers, but for them, out of the accelerated computing, only a small portion is going to be custom ASIC solutions. Majority is going to be merchant, and that's going to be like your NVIDIA and your AMD. So like I mentioned, I think right now, it Broadcom's growth and this mention that hyperscalers are designing their own AI chips is creating this bearish sentiment for NVIDIA. And that is why I mentioned at the beginning of this episode that I believe NVIDIA has to showcase at least maybe 1 or 2 quarters of Blackwell and kind of more understanding of the AI market before the market understands that, hey, look, big tech developing their own AI chips is not necessarily a bearish case for NVIDIA. And I think the market just sees it as just a yes to no answer. Like there's a lot more in between this. And I've talked about it in the past where NVIDIA's GPUs, they're great for many reasons that these custom ASIC chips are not good for. And ASIC chips are good, but they're not going to replace NVIDIA solutions. So again, I think the market is kind of worried about this. More importantly, I think right now the market has kind of thrown off AMD as some form of AI chip player. I think everybody knows NVIDIA is number one when it comes to the AI chip. I think most people are giving Broadcom number two, and they believe, hey, look, if this is going to be an AI chip war, it's going to be between number one and number two. And number three, which could be AMD, is nowhere near in sight. And I believe the stock market, I think Wall Street, I think most investors have given up on AMD. Personally, I'm not one of them. I believe AMD in the upcoming years is going to be a great investment, and these prices are going to seem cheap. But in the short term, I don't know where the stock can go. We can see even more and more red. But I feel very confident that a year from now, I will be doing a video and the AMD stock will be outperforming the market and will be much bigger than it is right now. Now, some other kind of thoughts impacting the semiconductor space is recently we have heard more kind of regulations coming from the United States to China, right? More export restrictions. So some of this is creating more tensions for companies that design AI chips, mainly NVIDIA. I guess the market might be worried a little bit about AMD as well in that. And obviously the semiconductor market right now is seeing kind of talks about even more tariffs with the Trump administration, which can obviously maybe hit some of the pressure in earnings for these companies. So all of that, in my opinion, is nothing that I as a long-term investor would be worried about. But if you're a short-term trader, stuff like that can definitely cause a lot of volatility in the stock. So at the end of the day, I am very, very bullish at AMD in these prices, and I am adding at these levels. For NVIDIA, while I am bullish for the stock, it is my number one holding. Over 25% of my portfolio is on NVIDIA. But for those that are not familiar, this is a stock I got very, very cheap. So I'm not selling right now. I'm also not buying. If I didn't have a position, maybe I would be dollar cost averaging on NVIDIA. But the semiconductor market always gives us opportunity. I believe AMD is one of those opportunities. I think maybe one day NVIDIA might give us an opportunity as well. But for right now, I am still very, very much bullish on NVIDIA as well. I think Broadcom and other ASIC players are also going to do well in this AI chip space. Right now, the AI chip market, no matter how you see it, is supply constraint. So even if big tech is developing their own chips as well, they're going to be fighting with kind of supply chain with NVIDIA, right? That memory, that HBM, NVIDIA, AMD, and all these players are going to be fighting for it. The manufacturing aspect from TSMC, all these companies are going to be fighting for it. The advanced packaging like CoWoS and every other kind of advanced packaging as well. All these big tech players are also going to be fighting for that supply chain. So there's the market, in my opinion, is going to be supply constraint for many years, at least for the next year, maybe even the next 2 years. And I think that's going to bode well for a lot of these semiconductor players. Obviously, stay tuned as things can change per quarter or every other quarter. But at least my thought basis right now is, sure, the market might be bearish on NVIDIA and AMD because they believe Broadcom is eating the lunch. But I think this table is so big that even if Broadcom has a seat, NVIDIA's plate is just so big that you don't even notice someone else might be eating small crumbs out of it. AMD, in my opinion, while it has a small plate, very, very small plate, I believe that plate can get a little bit bigger over time and can definitely benefit the stock. So take care, have a good day, and see you all next time.